Hello, everybody. My name is Jeremy. You're watching Red Beans Recording Modular, and this is my new live rig. I've not played live with it yet, but I have put up a 45-minute set of playing through this thing at sort of like 120 BPM, somewhat mellow electronica slash electro slash techno. I don't know, genres are bullshit. Anyways, the point of this is, the reason that I got a 45-minute set out of this is because of this friend right here, the Tubbutec Brainstep. This is the new sequencer from Tubbutec, and they sent it over a few weeks ago as of the filming of this video, and my intention was to film a walkthrough video of it, but I also really wanted to see how it worked in practice, right? There's no way to talk about a sequencer without actually seeing how it works in praxis, I guess. So my goal was to build a set, and that's what I did. And now I'm going to walk you through sort of how this works and how I personally will use it for my set and how you might be able to use it for yours. I will also explain this rig, and hopefully that'll give you some insight or inspiration for your own live set stuff, okay? So, the Brainstep. This, from what I understand, is the MC202 sequencer, retrofit sequencer that Tubbutec will do to your MC202, this very classic, weird little Roland synthesizer thing from back in the day. Many of the things that they will do to it will upgrade it in a lot of ways. The sequencer is one of them, and they've taken it here and they've put it into a module. And it's a 4-part sequencer, at the very least. I'm not 100% sure. And by the way, this will not be an exhaustive walkthrough. I'm just going to show you what I use, so please reference the manual if you have any more questions. There are 4 channels right here. They can do MIDI, they can do pitch, they can do gate, trigger, they can do modulation. Each one has 3 outputs. So by default, each one has pitch, and then you have CVA and CVB, and those can be assigned to different things. For the most part, I'm assigning them to gate out on CVA, but CVB is kind of up in the air, and it also can include samples, which is really wild. Let me first set up the main thing that we need here, which is clock. So this is the brain step. It's going to clock everything else in here, starting with Metron, which is our drum sequencer. So what I need to do is I need to go into the settings by pressing this button, boop, and then I'm going to go over to clock, which is the first option, and press it. So, source, internal. We have a few different sources here we can choose. A fair amount of sources. Can you see that? Just want to make sure I'm not hiding the screen. I got to be careful with that. I don't want to hide this beautiful bean of a screen from you. So we can sync to a bunch of sources, but I'm using internal right now. Now, the thing does have swing. So if I turn swing up here, it will swing the internal sequencer. And then if you go down to here, this is something that I asked for. Go to clock output. We can choose the output clock division. In this case, I'm using 1/16th note to clock Metron, and include swing on or off. Now, this is really, really cool because, I'll show you. You're going to hear our kick and our 606 right here. Let me go ahead and add a few more notes. Turn off our effects. Okay. So swing or shuffle is when you take the 2nd and 4/16th note and push them off the grid a bit. And it's very, very common in like house and stuff like that. So it's good to have. Now, if I go back to here and I turn swing up, let's say 25%, and I go to clock output and say include swing, you can hear now it's swung. Here, I'll put some 16th notes on there. The drums you're hearing besides the kick are coming from the 606 module from Tubbutec. That's what I asked for in return for doing a video on this, and it sounds fantastic. Okay, so swing off. If you're a sequencer or things that you are clocking from this, if you're just like clocking one thing, like for instance, the Metron or like Steppy or something like that, that maybe doesn't have internal swing, this does have internal swing, by the way, then it can be nice to include that swing output. But I decided, since we're using this output clock to clock a bunch of things, because when I use a sequencer like this as the brain, I like to take its clock that's coming out and send it to a bunch of stuff like Echo Cinematic needs clock, Ghost needs clock, this needs clock. I need that clock to not be swung. Otherwise, everything's going to get really weird. If you ever try swinging a delays clock, things get very strange. So this is an option. You can have swing on or off going to the other things. You can also set a division for each track here in terms of clock. And you'll notice over on the right here, it says link CV. So there are 4 CV inputs here, and you can link things to them, parameters here. I have not done any of that. It's one of those features that I haven't quite needed yet, but whenever you see link CV, as far as I understand, that means that you can link a control to that thing with CV, which is incredibly useful to be able to reach into your sequencer and do things to it. Okay, let's now that we have our clock set up, start setting up a track. So the first track that I have coming out, track 1, is actually coming MIDI out. So this is a little mini TRS cable, and it's going over here to the piano phonic. Now, at the moment, if I was to play any of these channels, I'll swap over to channel 2 by hitting swap. You can hear that I'm still hitting the piano phonic. Now, that's no fault of the Brainstep here. That is because the piano phonic by default just accepts Omni, and I haven't figured out how to save that to make sure that it only chooses one channel. But I can fix that really easily by going over the piano phonic and just choosing channel 1. Now, beautiful. If I do that, then we hear channel 1 there. So channel 1 is going out with MIDI. Each one of these channels, 1, 2, 3, 4, sends out by default its MIDI channel. So track 2 would send out MIDI channel 2, 3, 4, etc. And it's just as easy as taking that MIDI out and putting it right in there, which is great. And you're probably thinking, hey, does that mean I can control other MIDI things? And the answer, my friends, of course, is yes. You can absolutely control other MIDI devices from here. It's polyphonic. I haven't actually tried polyphonic out yet because I'm just using the piano phonic as sort of a melody thing. But it's absolutely possible, and that's pretty cool. Okay, now that we have one track set up, we could record on that. I'm actually going to record on a different channel. I want to tell you how to set up the CV stuff. So channel 2 over here, I hit swap to channel 2, is our Atlantics. This thing is just so wonderful. The Atlantics is one of my now favorite sounds I've ever had in a rack ever. IntelliGel, amazing. It is a SH-101. I will be doing a video on the Cascadia, which is the sort of broken out version of this, sort of the standalone. And Modular has a really, really great video on this one. Also, I'll see if you'd like to hear it in practice, you can go and watch my set and you'll hear what I did with it. So here's channel 2. I guess I need to do some stuff here. Oh, I haven't set it up. That's why we're not hearing it. Perfect. That was the whole intention of starting from scratch. So let's go into the menu. Boop. And I will go over to, I believe, in and out. Okay, so there's our MIDI settings right there. I'm going to go to track, and I'm going to choose track 2. Now, you only have to do this once per set, and obviously you could save a default set with these settings if you want. And what I mean by set is, you know, like you can save a set of patterns and song modes, and it saves a bunch of settings with it. So like the set that I performed, all the information and settings that I had for that set are saved in the set, which is great. We have a pitch out by default. It's right here. It's CVA. What do I need? I need a gate. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to go to gate. Now, you can see we got a gate over there. So why am I not hearing it? Because I have nothing turned up here. Doofus. Beautiful. Okay, so now that I've set that gate, CVA is sending gate out to our friend here. Go ahead and mellow it out just a little bit. Now, out B, we have a lot of different options here. I'm going to go down to out B, and I'm going to just flip through these. We have envelope mod. That is the one I'm going to use. We have a level. We have mod plus level. And we have sample. So interestingly enough, I think he just threw this in here. Tobias just threw this in here because he could. But there's a sample playback thing in here, and we're utilizing that actually in the set. And you can make your own samples, and you can use the sample pack generator on the website to make packs for this. And I'll show you that when we get to channel 4. Okay, what I want from this is envelope mod. So I'll go ahead and click that. Now, let's go ahead and record a sequence, and then I will get back into what envelope mod does, all right? So make sure FM2 is down. Let's talk about the different ways that you can record a sequence. I'm gonna hit back a few times, and we'll get to here. Now, this confused me a little bit, honestly. It's a little esoteric at first, but it makes sense once you practice it a little bit. These keys right here represent different patterns. Right now, I'm in what's called play mode. But if I was to hit play again and do this, you'll notice that one, it says empty pattern because we haven't recorded any patterns yet. And up on the right, you'll notice that it says P plus a key. So every single one of these keys represents a pattern. And if I hold shift, hold on there, buddy. If I hold shift, I actually go to another set of them. So all of these keys plus another set are patterns that you can store for your set. So a lot of patterns available. And you can have up to 64 steps per pattern. And we will get into that in just a moment. So there's kind of like 2 or 3 states a channel can be in, and we will get to the other ones in a bit. But for right now, just know that if you are hitting play and you see the little play icon right there, can you see that? Hopefully you can. That means that you are in sort of play pattern mode. The pattern should be playing and you can select other patterns. If you are in the mode where you see a note like that and it has a little stop over there, that means that you can play the keyboard. Now, I'm assuming that you can hook up a MIDI keyboard to this and play it that way too. I have not been doing that, but it is what it is, okay? So there's 2 ways to get note information into a pattern. One of them is by playing live, and the other one is by editing a pattern and then setting it off. So I'm gonna show you edit pattern first because we'll do live playing with the Pianophonic over here. All the stuff on the top in these black bars is shift controls, and everything on the bottom is just hit the button. So I'm gonna hit edit, and we're going to go into edit mode. Now, there's something that flashed there that's actually really important, and you will get sort of like, I don't know, what's the word? You'll get like tripped up if you don't realize this as you're working, because you can actually edit a pattern that you're not playing. So if I hold down edit, you'll see that it says editing F1, playing F1. So I can edit other patterns while a single pattern is playing, which means that I can get a pattern going and then, while no one's hearing it, and then send it off by hitting play or choosing that pattern after I'm out of edit mode, which is really cool if you're doing a fully improvisational set. This is a very classic step sequencer in that every time I press a note, it advances. And you'll notice that it does not care about how many steps that I have played. It will allow me to do polymeters and all that stuff. So if I was to hit play right now, and then the main sequencer play, it'll play those notes back that we just had there. You'll hear that this is running through the Echo Cinematic up here. I think it was Mylar Melodies that said that SH-101 loves echo and reverb, and it's absolutely true. So now I've got this pattern, okay? It's kind of boring, obviously, but there's stuff we could do to it to make it more interesting. If we go back into edit mode, you'll notice that, now move through these steps like this. There's 2 ways now to do what I'm about to do. One of them is by doing it in edit mode, and the other one is by doing it in record mode while it's playing back. And what we're going to do here, first and foremost, is add some rests and change the gate length. So these are shift functions. So what I'm going to do is travel through here, hold shift rest. I'll change the gate length there. You can set the default gate length in the settings, and gate length won't really matter all that much if you do not have a sustain stage on your envelope. Gate length is all about holding that sustain for a period of time. I'm actually going to turn this into 16 steps by hitting shift, delete, delete until I see 17 and 16. The second number, I believe, is your length of your pattern, and the first one is sort of what you're going to do to the next note. So if I come out of edit mode, you can hear those rests, and you can hear and you can hear those gate lengths. Okay. So there's more stuff that we can do. We can add ties and we can add portamentos. So I'm going to do that in live mode. I'm also going to be hitting this accent B button. This is going to add voltage coming out of the CVB, and we are going to then go edit what that does, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to hit play. Excuse me. Here's where it gets confusing, right? Hit play. Okay. So then I'm going to hit Shift and record. It's going to say, which pattern are you recording? You can choose to record a different pattern than the one that you're currently on. It's going to say how many steps. I can change the step amount right here. If I do, it's going to create a new pattern. Right now it says overdub, and that's what we want. So now this is playing. I could add more steps in real time. But I'm also going to do this. So portamento, tie, and accent B. And here there, we have a portamento. So I'm going to hit play. That changes it back to play mode. Okay. So one of the things I like about that is that you can sort of spam those portamento, tie, and accent while it's playing as sort of like a rhythmically humanly rhythmic interface with those things and get another sequence on top of it. So let's turn up FM2 here and see what's going on with our CVB output right now. There it is. Hear that? That is CVB out. Think of it like an accent, right? So we can adjust what that does, though. I'm going to go into our menu, and I'm going to go to Mod. Track 2, great. If I wanted to change that, I could. You'll notice that the first 3 are crossed out. That's because we chose gate for that output, right? Over here, we have accent envelope, and LFO. So if I turn LFO up, we will notice that we actually have an LFO. And we can link that to an external CV control, which means that we can adjust how this LFO works on the fly. Right now, it's just a, what do you call it? A triangle wave, but there are other waves available. And if I go over to free versus sync, I can change various LFO-y things, right? Fun, right? So I have not used the LFO in this particular set, but there it is. So I'm going to turn that down. Great. So what's doing that? Well, that would be accent. This little friend. So I'm going to keep it at 100 because I have this other FM2 input here that I can assign like that. And I have a slider for it, which is the best control. Sliders are the best control. Okay, so if I was to come down here, though, I can change the attack time. And the decay time. All right. So I find that to be a very good way to get a classic acid sound out of our Atlantics here, because we got that accent, and it's just fantastic. So that is the mod out. There's a lot of stuff that you can do with it, obviously. There's a level one where you set a level for each step, which is really, really cool. There is, let's see, what else is there? Envelope mod, level, mod plus level, and then sample, as we talked about. So, choose your weapon. I'm going to go ahead and edit this again, and I'm going to add a few more rests. Oops, that will happen. Be careful. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because the next thing we're going to show is the arpeggiator. So if I hit ARP right here, I am now in arpeggiator mode. There's an octave control. Goes pretty high. Okay. There are ARP control directions right here. So right now we're going forward. If I can go, I believe, backwards. Oh, I'm sorry. I have to hit shift for that. So let's turn on hold and then we'll explore the directions real quick. So shift plus hold. There we go. Okay, so shift backwards, down, up, down, up. And then you'll notice right here, there are things like order, redrew, and these ones right here. So if I was to go like shift like that, we would get a different type of back and forth. Let's see, that's one. That's order. And then there's redrow. So you can do this on the fly. You could actually do this with your pattern as well. So let me exit ARP mode. Backwards. Whatever that is. So just with those controls, you have some interesting things that you can do to your pattern, right? Okay, back to ARP. So one of the really interesting things that this has going on is if you go into ARP, ARPs are great. You know, they're a classic sort of like performance tool. They sound good on all kinds of music, but they can be a little static. So you notice this little like beaker icon right here? That's the chemistry icon. And if I hold copy, which has the chemistry icon next to it, and press any of these patterns, if there is data recorded on that pattern that includes things like rests and gate lengths and portamentos and ties and accents, it's going to take that pattern's information and apply it to the ARP. Therefore, you can play the ARP, but get this rhythmic patterny thing, okay? So here we go. I only have one pattern recorded right here, the one that we made earlier. I'm gonna hit copy. So now that ARP note data is playing back, but it's pulling that pattern information, including our accents and our portamentos and all that stuff. I think that's pretty damn cool. And because you can pull from any of the patterns, a single ARP can turn into like a bunch of different things, which I think is super, super neat. So that's how you can edit a pattern and have it play back. If I was to go to hold edit and say edit this one right here, this F sharp pattern, then what I could do is come in here and make a new pattern. You'll notice that I'm on this octave right here, D sharp 4. If I need to go down, I can hit this little left arrow right here and I'll go down an octave. That's 10 steps. Let's go back. Let's add some rests. And let's add some portamentos and ties and accents. Great. So now if I hit play again, I'm still on that F1 pattern, but if I do this, I've just silently made a pattern on the fly and switched to it. You can also copy patterns to another pattern on the fly and then edit that new pattern. So for my set, what I went and did was I just went and recorded a set of 4 patterns for each one of the things that play here. The SH101, the Atlantics, the Pianophonic, the Onroy. So track 3 is the Onroy here. I'll go ahead and hit swap to go to the next track. So this, what key are we in? Did I pick D flats or D? Yeah, E flats. There we go. Okay, cool. So I wanted to use the Onroy as a Okay, you can chill out just a little bit. I wanted to use the Onroy as a effect processor for track 4, which is going to be our samples. But I'm like, you know what? I have an extra channel on here. Why don't I just sequence it and I can bring in those. So let's do a real-time record with this, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and hit Shift Record. Now I get to choose how many steps I want this to be. So I'm going to go ahead and go all the way to 64 steps. That's the maximum that I can have. And when I'm ready, I'm going to hit play. And what's going to happen is, see this little counter right here? It's aware of the 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's going to wait till I get to the 1 to let me record. Now, I'm still in record mode. I'm actually in overdub mode right now. I could go and add more things. I could go and spam these triggers and stuff right here, spam these accents and portamentos and ties if I wanted to in this mode, but instead I'm just going to hit play. That switches it from record mode to play mode. Now remember, in this mode, I can pick different patterns. It will switch to them when this pattern is done. So if I was to hit F sharp right now, I guess it just switched on the next beat. I'm sorry, it switches on the next beat. I'm not sure if there's a condition for that in the settings. But yeah, so that's how you real-time record. I found the Onroy a very, very cool extra layer here. Let's go ahead and get over to the track 4 where I did samples, okay? So swap to track 4. Track 4 is not set up to do samples right now, so we got to go back into the menu, and I will go to in and out, track 4, and I believe it's just out B that does samples. You notice I just have CVB out here. So I'm going to go over to sample, hit back. You'll notice now that it says sample right there. So if I go to sample, track 4, load, and I will be able to load from here a pack. These are the packs that come with it, including 606 drums. And you can make your own. They're very lo-fi, as you're about to hear, but they have a certain charm. So let's listen to them. This looks very different right now, right? You can see on the bottom it says B1, B2, B3, S1, S2, RS, CP, CH, OH, CY, TK, and BL. Let's go ahead and turn up our input here. There are 12 samples that you can play, so they repeat on the thing here. Like this is BL1, here's BL1 again up here. So this works just like anything else. I can step sequence these or I can record in real time. Let's go ahead and step sequence these. So, I accidentally entered song mode. Ignore that. I will not be showing you song mode because I do not use it, but there is a song mode in here. So I will go now to edit, just regular edit. There we go. Cool. Okay, so now I'm going to hit play. Make sure that I pick the right pattern. I'm going to hit record because I want that clap sound. This one, where is it? That one. I want that on the 2 and the 4 of each bar. So. There we go. So those samples are coming from here. Now, there are some effects you can do here using these things. It says A, R, F. ARF. We're going to mess with these ARF things. Accent, reverse, and something else. I don't remember what they are. Let's just spam them. And there we go. We have a little bit of extra zhuzh on our sample thing. So, I have not made my own sample packs yet. I actually really like that sample pack right there. But they're like 8-bit, I believe. and you can use the sample pack maker on the Tubbutec website. He sent one over that I haven't tried yet that's like chopped breaks. So there's some things that are possible there. So on the fly, 64 steps. Wait for this to come around because that's a 64 step sequence as well. 2, 3, 4. All right. So Pianophonic over here is going through kick aim. This is a wavetable oscillator. If you haven't seen my video on it, you should. I've put a lot of work into it. It's fun. It's a cartoon. I'm going to go ahead and edit this. I messed up a note. There it is right there. So I need to take this note, C sharp 5, put a rest there, and put that there instead. There we go. Pretty easy to fix things on the fly if you need to. So this is ostensibly sort of a wavetable sample player. It uses wavetable transients. It uses PCM transients into a wavetable. Has a really nice sound. I really like it in this context. It's going into kickane here, and kickane is the Nobula kick drum module, which has a nice range of like super mellow. It's big and clicky. Now, it also has a built-in sidechain, and that's what we're really stoked on here, is that I can like squish this Pianophonic thing here. So if I was to like go to art mode, get some cool stuff, you know? If I ever want one of these patterns to stop playing, I hit that play button, and now it has stopped playing. I can now play this live if I wanted to. So you can play things live if you stop the sequence at the moment. Okay. The other thing I have going on is the stereo strip from DivKid after that, and I'm using that simply for that right there. That EQ takey outie. Taking out your kick drum is a big part of electronic music. So yeah, I just basically spam that right there. Okay, let's talk about what else is going on. Metron is sequencing kick aim. That's channel 1 right here. Channels 2 through, 8 are sequencing the 606. So let's take this out real quick and just listen to the 606. The 606, I think, it's not quite legendary as 808, but it really does sound fantastic. I think it's great. So we have a kick drum right here. We have a snare drum. Low tom, which is right here. You can add some noise to it if you want. I like using the toms as another like rhythm thing in the low end to complement the kick drum. Complement the bass line. What am I talking about? I found the two kind of work really nicely together. There's a little bit of jumble in the low frequencies because of it, but I think it's worth it. And when I want to transition between tracks, I'll like switch this over to noise, just noise on here, And then the toms and stuff over here act as a surrogate sort of like low-end bassline thing, which is really great. We have a, let's see, what's next? A cymbal with some options. I'm only working in 16 steps, so I don't really have use of a crash cymbal unless I just turn it on and then get rid of it, which I absolutely could do. Sometimes I will, on the 4 on the floor thing here, what I'll do is like, just take out that last one, and that adds like a little bit of fill, and I can just go and change it once again. It's like a poor man's Dopefer trigger thing that Colin Benders was using in his most recent live set. What else we got? Let's see. I think this is closed hi-hat. And then we have open hi-hat underneath it. You can actually swap those, which is done here. I have it in swap mode. I like my closed hi-hat to be before my open hi-hat, but that's normal for some reason. Now, this also has some options for metal or white noise for the source. So this 16th note thing sounds really good, but I have effects set up here in such a way that I can do that level of sort of adding syncopation with my effects. You've been hearing Ghost. Ghost is the last of the chain for our friend here, and I have delay, which is a nice little friend. I have some reverb if I need that. And then, most importantly, I have that. That is my takey outie. So when I need to switch drum patterns down here, or I'm doing a build up or breakdown, the first thing I do is I bring that down. I also have Data Bender in here because I really, really wanted to create some cool textures. So it's running into Data Bender and Ghost, the 606 is. So let's go ahead and bring this in. See how I've just added that syncopation? If I turn down bend, pretty cool, right? So before, after. And if I was to turn bend up, you're going to hear glitches. Same thing with break a little bit. So it's a cool way to just get a little bit of extra out of your drums. Drums are very, very, very important. All right. So we talked about the SH-101. It's running into the Echo Cinematic. A little bit of delay and reverb. I have that shelved off a little bit. The EQ built into the Echo Cinematic is very, very useful because it allows me to high pass the delay. And that gives me the ability to make sure that the echoes don't get in the way of the bass line. Okay. Last thing in this setup, besides the mixer, I guess we'll talk about that. This is a Steady State Fate Vortices, 3 stereo ins, and this pair down here, which can be panned to create a stereo in as well. It's a lot in a compact package. I like it quite a bit. So that's what's going on with that mixer. The mixer is running out into our friend Oxy Meta. I have a video on this too. It's also very silly, so go check that out. Now, the Oxy Meta is a transition designer, right? So as you turn the knob, it affects based on one of the things here. We have space, riser, filter, loop, and that off button, which is really, really good to have with an effect like this. I've been using it exclusively in riser mode, and I don't want to reach over here. So I have a Acid Rain Navigator set up right here. Knob is set to our knob right here, the effects knob, and the thing down here is set to control. So for instance, that's all you need. So I'll do this. It takes the bass out immediately, right? Bring this down. Change to noise. Change the pattern over to the original pattern. go through each, swap it to their original, swap it to the next pattern that I want to play. And then I will, bring this in a bit more. Bring this in. Change that to our bass sound. And once I feel like it, hit off. And now I'm in the next song, or whatever. So that's the rack. It's pretty simple, but very, 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 very performative and fun. And by saving patterns in here, I can basically create a series of songs. Now, the thing that really brings it all together is the OP1. Because I don't have any sample playback in here except for that, and that doesn't really count. So what I wanted to do was to create some tentpole events, meaning like, how can I make this song feel like this pattern here, feel like it has some kind of identity? And the answer to that was, well, I picked out a sample to play back on the OP1 for each track. So, I have this bird. That was my first performance, and I just switch over here. Now, each one of my patterns is in a different key. And so I actually tuned, we'll see tune right here. I tuned each one of these so that all I have to play is in the key of C. So I don't have to remember what the key is for my pattern. I just play the note. So that can be helpful if you don't want to have to remember what the key of each one is. But it's probably good too, because I actually have this live synth here that I also can play. All right, well, I think that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Jeremy. This is Red Means Recording. Thank you to Tubbutec for sending over the sequencer for me to do, the Brainstep for me to do a video on, and for the 606 thing for me to also, I guess, do a video on inadvertently. And thank you to IntelliGel for providing the Atlantics for this video. Keep your eyes peeled because this is going to show up a lot more. I'll be using this rig for some live sets upcoming, so watch my socials or here for information about that. Check out the videos in the video description, including the live set that I just finished up with this. And yeah, that's it for me today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day.